Ever notice how some things just seem to go hand in hand, like avocados and toast, or well, for us today, autism and dyslexia?
Yeah.
You sent in some really interesting stuff about this,
Right.
especially from those folks over at Cheap APA.
Yeah, they're great.
Really fantastic resource for, well, anything autism, really.
Absolutely.
And they pointed out how often these two conditions, autism and dyslexia, show up together.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
And it gets thinking, what is the connection there?
Yeah.
Why is it so common to find, someone navigating both of those things?
Right.
So that's what we're diving into today.
It's a question that researchers are really, really digging into.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is it's a lot more complicated than just like a random overlap.
Oh, really?
Imagine a kid, we'll call him Alex.
Okay.
Alex loves dinosaurs,
Right.
knows every single species,
Ah,
can rattle off facts like a walking encyclopedia.
I love that.
But when it comes to, reading out loud in class,
Yeah.
freezes up,
Oh, no.
stumbles over words.
Yeah.
The page, it's like swimming in front of his eyes.
Oh, that's got to be so frustrating.
And that's where autism and dyslexia can kind of like intertwine,
Okay.
create a really, really specific set of challenges.
So we're talking about a kid who's obviously bright,
Oh, yeah.
clearly engaged, but just hits this wall.
Right.
When it comes to what we expect from learning, traditional learning, what's going on in Alex's brain and other kids like him, that creates this.
Well, that's where the science gets really interesting.
Okay.
We don't have one single answer,
Okay.
but the research is showing us some key overlaps
Okay.
in how the nervous system works, how it functions
Okay.
in both conditions, both in autism and dyslexia.
Interesting.
Think about areas like language processing.
Okay.
So that's the ability to understand words
Right. Right.
and then use them effectively.
Right. To communicate.
Exactly. And both autism and dyslexia can kind of mess with that,
Okay.
but in different ways.
Interesting. So it's not just about knowing what each word means in isolation.
Right, right.
It's like the whole system of language,
Very
with all the
awesome.
little nuances and social cues and
Yeah.
and how we use it back and forth.
Yeah, the communication part of it. And let's not forget about sensory processing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Another big area of overlap.
Okay.
So for someone with autism,
Yeah.
all that everyday sensory input,
Yeah.
like the lights buzzing in the classroom or the way certain fabrics feel.
Right. Right. Which can be a lot.
It can be really distracting,
Yeah.
even overwhelming at times.
Yeah.
And then try to layer on top of that
Yeah.
the visual demands of actually decoding text.
Oh, wow.
And you can see how for someone like our Alex,
Yeah.
reading just becomes doubly challenging.
Yeah. It's it's almost like trying to have a conversation, like whispering at a rock concert.
Exactly.
With all that going on, it's very difficult. You mentioned executive function earlier, and
Yeah.
Cheap ABA talks about this too. How does that fit in?
Oh, executive function. That's the the air traffic controller in our brain,
Okay.
helps us plan things, organize our thoughts,
Right.
manage time, switch between different tasks.
Okay.
Imagine packing for a trip,
Mm-hmm.
but your suitcase is just a mess,
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the daily struggle.
Yeah.
Someone with executive function challenges, that's what they're dealing with.
Wow.
And both autism and dyslexia,
Okay.
they can impact those skills,
Right.
make it harder to focus, start and finish tasks,
Yeah.
follow multi-step directions.
Oh, wow.
All those things you need to succeed in school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really important stuff.
So we're not just talking about reading a paragraph. We're
Right.
talking about this whole mental marathon it takes to even get there,
Exactly.
to tune things out and decode the words and then hold it all in your mind.
Yeah, it's a lot.
No wonder this is so challenging, this co-occurrence.
Right.
But let's go back to the why for a minute. What's actually happening at a deeper level to connect these two things?
So this is where the research gets really, really interesting.
Okay.
Scientists are finding some fascinating things in our DNA.
Okay.
Certain genes,
Mhm.
the ones involved in brain development,
Right.
and how our neurons connect to each other.
Yeah.
Those seem to be linked to both
Okay.
autism and dyslexia.
Interesting.
It's kind of
Yeah.
like finding similar blueprints
Okay.
in two buildings that look totally different.
Right.
They might look different, function differently on the surface,
Yeah.
but underneath, they've got some of the same fundamental structures.
That makes sense. And it's not just one gene, right? It's like a combination.
Yeah, yeah.
You got it. Of maybe even some environmental factors in there too.
Exactly. It's rarely just one thing, you know.
Right.
But these genetic links,
Yeah.
they're really helping researchers understand
Yeah.
why some people might be predisposed to both.
So if we have a child like our Alex who's struggling with both of these things,
Right.
how do we even begin to figure that out? What does diagnosis look like in that scenario? It sounds like, yeah, figuring out if it's both is really important.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's not just, picking one or the other.
Right.
It's really about understanding how they play together, how they interact.
Okay.
And remember those overlapping symptoms we talked about?
Yeah, yeah.
Those can make diagnoses really, really tricky.
Okay.
A kid might be really good at hiding certain things.
Right, right.
Or their trouble with reading might just be chalked up to autism.
Right, like assumed it's all from the same source.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really important to have, professionals who get it,
Yeah.
who understand both worlds, both autism and learning disabilities,
Yeah.
and can really do like a thorough assessment.
It's almost like you need a learning specialist who can see like the whole picture,
Yes.
but then also zoom in on the detail.
Exactly.
So once you have that dual diagnosis,
Right.
what kind of support actually makes a difference?
That is the million-dollar question. And that's where that individualized approach is so key.
Okay.
It's about looking at, Alex as Alex,
Right.
not just as like a textbook definition of autism or dyslexia.
Right. Treating the individual person.
Exactly. So, for example, like traditional phonics instruction
Yeah.
might not cut it.
Okay.
Maybe we need to bring in some visual aids
Okay.
or some assistive tech that can read the text out loud.
Yeah, interesting.
Take some of the pressure off of that decoding part.
Okay.
Let Alex focus on actually understanding what he's reading.
Yeah, getting the meaning from it.
Right. Or maybe we need to build in some sensory breaks throughout his day
Okay.
to help him manage those moments when it all gets to be a bit too much.
Right, to regulate a little bit.
Exactly.
So it's all about, like you were saying, tailoring it.
Yes.
It's like custom made instead of like one size fits all.
Precisely.
Which, I mean, what a concept, really, when you think about it. And it feels like this understanding, this idea. I mean, it's bigger than just these two things.
Well, that's absolutely. You're right on the money with that one.
Yeah.
Recognizing this connection that's so common, it reminds us that learning differences,
Yeah.
they aren't like these isolated things.
Right.
They exist on a spectrum
Yeah.
with so many variations.
Yeah.
And when we approach support with that in mind,
Yeah.
when we recognize that everyone's different,
Yeah.
we can create a learning environment that's more inclusive
Right.
and honestly more effective for everyone involved.
I love that. So what can our listeners really take away from this whole deep dive? It seems like, understanding this connection really highlights the importance of, like you said, personalized support.
100%. And not just for, folks with autism and dyslexia.
Right, for everybody.
For everyone. It's about, recognizing the strengths
Yeah.
that often come with these conditions.
Yeah.
The focus, the creative thinking.
The passion.
Yes,
Yeah.
the passion. And it's about meeting individuals where they are,
Right.
understanding the unique challenges they face,
Yeah.
and then giving them the tools they need to thrive.
It's really about like empowering not just individual learners, but our whole approach
Exactly.
to education and support. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. It was really fascinating.
It was my pleasure, truly.
And to our listeners, be sure to check out resources like Cheap ABA
Great resource.
to keep learning more about all of this. And until next time, keep those brains buzzing.